Hi you guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It is Julia Creations and I'm back with another video. Hi you guys, welcome in. If you're new to my channel, hi guys, I'm a budget coach that makes budgeting easy and simple for you. If you're returning back to my channel, hi guys, welcome back in. Hello. So guys, today we're going to be talking about how to do a quarterly audit. It is currently we're currently jumping into a new quarter which starts October. It's currently October 3rd as I'm making this video. I'm going to be going through and showing you guys how you can properly do a quarterly audit. Now, this is perfect for if you're starting your budget journey and you're new to budgeting or you have been budgeting. I recommend this to my clients every quarter to go through and set up their expenses, see where they're at, see what their goals are, those things that they want to adjust here, you guys. We're going to go through and see everything. So we're going to manage what we've spent for the last 3 months. We're going to talk about what we spent, what our goals are that we want to spend, what our income was this quarter. So many times things or months pass by, right? And it's like, okay, where did our money go? It just feels like we haven't made any progress, or you feel like you have made progress. Or if you're new to starting your budget journey, people always ask me, okay, well, how do I know what I want to budget for? This is why we do a quarterly audit. So for the last 3 months, we're going to see what we've been spending on everything, where our money has been going. If you're new to budgeting, I highly recommend this. You don't have to do this just for the quarter. I recommend it to anybody that's starting a new budget journey to do this. And then we're also going to do this because we're going into the new year, right? In 3 months, we'll be starting a new year. It's going to be 2026. And if you're watching this video, this is the perfect time to kind of see where you are. This is where a lot of people struggle when it comes to budgeting due to the holidays coming up, just different things. So going through and having this conversation with yourself, setting up goals. I always say, what can we achieve in the span of 3 months instead of the span of a year, right? If we look at every 3 months, okay, what is our score? What do we want our credit score to be? What is our savings looking like? What do we want our savings to be? What's our debt balance? Writing down those things and having those conversations with yourself is so freaking important when it comes to your financial health. So I'm going to be breaking you through how to set up a financial quarterly audit, how you can do this every 3 months. And of course, I have this free sheet in my description box. You can grab this description. So what you're going to need today is your quarterly audit sheet, which we have 3 different color options in my description box. You guys, you're going to need your quarterly audit sheet, and you're also going to need your bank statement. So if you've been using my budget planner, we have a every 3 month check-in section on here. We have a reality check, but if you don't have a planner, you haven't started a budget journey, I want you to pull your bank statements from the last 3 months, and we're going to go through and break down how to do this audit. So let's get straight into it, you guys. Alright you guys, so the first thing we're going to do is focus on what quarter that we're starting with. So this is quarter 4, but we're going to go ahead and do July. We're going to do July, August, September. So we're going to be looking at the months of July through September is what we're going to be looking for. So if you have been tracking using your budget planner, you should have your expenses tracked from these months. But if you do not, you can go ahead and grab your bank statements from July. You're going to grab your bank statements from July. You're going to grab your bank statements from August. And you're going to grab your bank statements from September. I'm just going ahead and opening my budget planner. So we're going to go ahead and see where we are from July. And we're going to go ahead and pull up our reality checking page, okay? So for our reality checking page, we're going to go ahead and see what we've spent in these categories for the month, okay? So for the month of July, the first category we're going to start with is going to be our groceries. For the span of 3 months, how much do we spend on groceries? In July, we spent the total of $127. So I'm just going to put July, $127. And then we're going to go ahead and write down August. And then we're going to go ahead and write down September. You can just total them all up, but I want to actually see individually what we spent on each month. So I'm going to go to my budget planner. This was July. Now we're going to go ahead and go to August. And you're going to use your reality checking page for this, you guys. So we go to August. How much did we spend for groceries? For groceries in August, we spent the total of $89. So we're gonna go ahead and put for August $89. And then let's go to September, which was the next month over, the past month that just previously went away. In September, we spent a total of $100 on groceries. So we're gonna go ahead and put that as 100. Okay. And let's go ahead and total this up. So 127 plus 89 plus 100. We spent the total of $316 on groceries. Now you guys may ask why this is important, because we want to see how much we're averaging each month on these bills and expenses as well. So if you're new to budgeting, you're like, okay, well, I don't know how much I should set my grocery budget for. As you can see right here, I spent $127 in July. In August, I spent $89. In September, I spent $100. Every month I budget about $160 for my groceries. So looking at these numbers, I can see how much I'm averaging versus what I need to adjust for my budget. So 89 was the lower end, September was like the middle end, and then July was like the higher end. So based off this, do I need to be budgeting $160 a month for groceries? I'm still going to do that, but based on my numbers, this is what I have for groceries. So you would do the same thing for your numbers as well. So for groceries, we spend $316. Do you like this number? Do you not like this number? Looking at your budget, is this something you want to spend on groceries according to your numbers? Remember, you're pulling your numbers for the last 3 months. So for the last 3 months, are you satisfied with what you have on your sheet? So keep that in mind when you're setting up your budget, that all of that is important, because this helps you decide, well, am I overspending on groceries? Am I underspending on groceries? So whatever you're spending in these categories is going to be important for deciding what to budget for. So if you're spending more than what you want to spend on groceries, what is a goal that you can set so you can make that lower for you? What are some things you can incorporate into your budget if you feel like you're spending way too much on groceries? So that is our grocery category. The next category we're going to go ahead and do is going to be eating out, since it kind of falls around that same spot. And I'm going to go ahead and do a July eating out, a August eating out, and a September eating out. Instead of just totaling it for the month, we're going to go ahead and break it down into sections. I didn't do this on the last audit, so I think this is a great way to incorporate this. So for September's eating out, we spent a total of $84 according to our reality check in our budget planner. Our reality check takes everything from our expense tracker and breaks it down into categories. So instead of trying to figure out what we spent for grocery or eating out for our expense tracker, we write it down in our reality checking page, because this is how we determined what we spent each month versus what went in our savings. So now the next month we're going to look at, we're going to go backwards here. What did we spend in August? I just started with September since we were over there. In August, we spent a total of $72 on eating out. So eating out was our total of $72 for August. So in the August category, we're going to put $72. Now let's go to July. And I usually I put a budget for about $100 for eating out a month, you guys. Just because I don't try to eat out as much. I try to reduce it as much as possible, but still give myself a space for it. So what I spent in July, we spent a total of $80 on eating out. Okay. So $80 is what we spent on eating out. As you can see, that still shows my average for eating out is about $80 per month. What did we spend in the span of 3 quarters for eating out? 80 plus 72 plus 84. We spent the total of $236 for the month, or the last 3 months on eating out. I'm okay with that. That's not too bad. Now, if I had $600, $700 in eating out, maybe I would want to make a difference with my finances there. So we did pretty good there. That's what we average for the span of 3 months. Look at your numbers and see what you average and see if you like that or if you want to set a goal. Remember, these are your spending habits. This is what you've done for the last 3 months, okay? So this depends on what you're spending. So for subscriptions, I could tell you right now for my gym membership, I spend $32 each month. And then my regular subscriptions, I spend $47. So for this one, I'm just going to write down what I spent for the span of 3 months. We're going to go ahead and do gym, which is $32 times 3 months. And then subscriptions is $47 times 3 months. So 32 times 3 is 96. 47 times 3, 141 plus 96. I spent the total of $237 on personal expenses or personal subscriptions and memberships. Okay. Okay, and I also wanted to mention, you guys, that most of these categories are going to be variable expenses. So if you want to do an audit that includes your bills, you can, but we're focusing on the variables because this is usually the categories that catch people off guard. So that's why we're doing these categories. So as you can see so far, we spent $316 for the last 3 months on groceries, $236 the last 3 months on eating out. Subscriptions and memberships, we spent the total of $237. And then our transportation versus gas is the next one we're going to go to. So for the month of July, we went ahead and we spent $60 in that category. So let's go ahead and write down what we spent in August. Let's go ahead and write down what we spent in September. And I also want you to be looking at your budget. What did you set for these categories? Is the budget matching the categories you set? If not, where are you off by? Are you off by a few months, or are you off by not a few months, but are you off by a little bit? What's the kind of numbers looking like? Because that plays a big effect as well, you guys. So for gas, for August, we spent the total of $52 for August. Now let's go ahead and double check for September. Let's see, make sure you guys can see the sheet clearly for September. And this is so much easier if you have it written in your planner, because we went ahead and wrote all of this stuff in our planner. So if you didn't write it in your planner, guys, you're just going to go through and you're going to highlight all your bank statements. So for September, we spent the total of $56. So you can see I budget about $60 or $70 a month for gas. We are staying on point with that budget factor. This is what we had in September. So compare this to the budget you set or the numbers. Do you like that? Is that too much? Where are you sitting with that? So for the total that we spent in this category, we spent 60 plus 52 plus 56 for the month. We spent the total of $168 on gas and transportation for the span of 3 months. Not too bad. I think that's pretty good. Now let's go ahead and look at credit card interest. Now this is going to be in your credit card section in your planner. I don't have a balance on any of my credit cards, so we're currently not paying for any interest on any of our personal credit cards or any minimums, so we're gonna put 0. But what I want you to do is add up all of your interest for the last 3 months, and I also want you to add up all your minimums. This is a very important factor for my people that are dealing with debt right now. If you're not aware of how much you're spending on interest, and this is going to be separate from your minimums, you guys, I want you to pull those bank statements and see what you've spent on interest. This is so freaking important when you're doing your budget, because you will be surprised how much you actually spend on interest than you think you do. So go through and pull those bank statements and see what you spent. Now we have our self-care and our beauty category. So this is one where I do spend pretty heavy for my self-care. Let's see here. We didn't do self-care in September, you guys. I didn't wind up getting my nails done till literally today, so I didn't spend money on self-care in September. So let's go ahead and start with July. Let's go ahead and open our planner in July. It's going to be a lot of flipping back and forth, you guys. So for July, I spent the total of $90 on my nails. I'm sorry, $80 on my nails in July. And then August, let's go to August. And then September, we'll go ahead and put 0. And I think I got my hair done in August as well. So let's go ahead and look in August what my hair was like. August, I definitely was a higher self-care month for me. Get my nails done every single month. I also got my hair done. So my nails for August were 200, or my hair was $250, and then my nails were $90. So for August, we spent the total of $340. So usually I get my hair done, if I get braids, I usually get my hair done every few months. So that's where we get that total from. So 80 plus 340 plus 0, of course. So our total in this category will be about $420 on self-care. I'm pretty low maintenance. I just like my nails done, and usually I would get my eyebrows done too. Sometimes I'll put that in the factor as well. So that's what we spend on self-care. Now this is a good one. Many times when you're doing a quarterly audit or you're doing a check-in, you may not have reached your savings goal, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I had all this money in my savings. Or maybe you started this quarter with $1,000 in your savings and then unplanned expenses happen. So now we're going to go through from the last 3 months, and we're going to go ahead and write up our unplanned expenses and what we spent. So let's go ahead and see. This one is going to be definitely one for me. Unplanned in July, we spent $0. But in August, we did have a unplanned for King. We did have to get him some surgery. So for unplanned for King, I did pull from my savings. So for July, we had, we didn't spend anything on unplanned. But in August, we spent the total of $700. $700 came from my savings for King's surgery in August. And then also in September, we did have an unplanned as well. September, we had $140 because I went on a last minute trip, so I had to put him into boarding. So we spent the total of $140. All right. In this category, we spent the total of $840 in emergencies and unplanned. So when I go and look at my savings and $840 is missing, hey, well, we know where it came from. That's our unplanned things that happen that gave us a little minor setback, okay? So now what we're going to go ahead and do is go to our household items, you guys. I don't have a set budget for household items. I pulled out my spending budget, so we're just going to put this as a 0. And then our coffee runs / shopping. For this category, I do a spending budget for the month of July, August, and September. We're going to go ahead and add these up. So for the month of September, I spent $119 on spending. And then let's go ahead and go back to August here in our budget planner. We're going to go to August. August, we spent the total of $128. And then July, see what we did in spending. We spent the total of $116. This is pretty accurate for me. I am not a heavy spender. I do give myself like a $250 spending budget per month. So anything I want, makeup, shopping, anything of that nature goes in that category. And I also do put my personal care items in here as well. So we spend about $363 in the span of 3 months. Once again, this is going to look different for each person. This is my personal spending just on myself. I'm not a heavy spender. But this is what I have spent. So coffee runs, I consider my coffee runs impulsive. So we're going to put that in my impulsive category. Now for my people that love Afterpay, Affirm, Klarna, you guys, you're going to go ahead and write down how much you've spent on those transactions for the span of the months. I don't do any of those, so I'll zero out there. And then now for our impulsive category. Impulsive for me is mainly coffee. I usually don't go over my spending budget, so impulsive for me each month usually runs into like coffee. So let's go ahead and see. I try to drink coffee at home. So for July, we spent a total of $8 for impulsive. So this is literally going to be coffee runs, you guys. I call these my caffeine runs. These are like the little things I go and grab before the gym, or I have coffee. And it's like, yeah, you can take this from your spending budget, you guys, but I don't really care to do that. I try to limit myself from these things. So August, we spent $7. And September, we spent $6. So these are the times I went out and got coffee. So not a lot, but I try to like handle that and make sure I don't do it a lot. So that's how I monitor that. I count it as impulsive, but as you can see, that has went down. If you guys watched my previous audit, I was had a lot of energy drinks and coffee. So sorry you guys, I have my recording on my phone too. I'm recording this on my phone, but I would go through and I would get energy drinks so often as well. So that was something that would factor into my budget, and I was trying to decrease that, so I would count it as impulsive. This is perfect if you have a habit that you're trying to stop. You can document it as impulsive, but you're gonna write down everything. Now remember, impulsive is anything that goes over your budget or wasn't in your budget. Let me refer you guys back to the expense tracker in our budget planner. So if you don't have all of this stuff organized, you can always go back and look in your expense tracker in your planner. So remember, in your expense tracker, you have these 3 different categories: planned, unplanned, and impulsive. So planned is going to be everything in your budget. Unplanned is going to be everything that are emergencies that happen, or things that weren't planned in your budget. And impulsive is going to be anything that goes over your budget or wasn't in your budget. So that's how we document that. Now that is it for our section here. So now let's go ahead and look at the other stuff that we have in this audit sheet that I wanted to include that I think is very important. So we have your progress check-in. So what's your credit score? You're going to go ahead and write down what your credit score is. Mine is currently at 807. Am I okay with this? Do I like this? This is fine. I'm not mad about it. My debt balance, we're going to go ahead and put this at 0. And then my savings balance, I'm going to keep this to myself, but my savings looks pretty nice. I'm okay with my savings as of right now. This is actually, to be transparent, this is the most money I've ever had saved. I'm going to put that now, most money I have ever had saved. So I'm feeling good in my savings category. And then how much spending did we do for the quarter? Let's go ahead and add it up. We spent $316 in groceries. We spent $168 in grocery, or $168 in gas. 0 on household, 0 on Affirm. For eating out, we spent the total of $236. For subscriptions and memberships, $237. For self-care and beauty, we spent $420. And then unplanned and emergencies, we spent the total of $840. And then coffee, runs, and shopping, we spent $363. And then impulsive, we spent $21. Our total spending for this quarter, and this is just variables. Of course, this isn't our bills, guys. If you want to add your bills, you can. For variables, we spent the total of $2601. That is not bad. In the span of 3 months, 2601 divided by 3, we spent about $867 a month on variables, which is normally what I budget for my variables each month. So then you're going to go ahead and write down your full income that you had for this quarter that you made. So how much money did you make? Now this is important because when you're going through and looking at your budget, right, you want to see how much money you've made versus what went out, right? So remember how I say you do the audit to see kind of where you're at, you know, like where your spending habits are. You can see those type of things, right? So when you're looking at your budget, you want to see what income is going in versus what's going out, because that's the only way you'll be able to make a change. Are you happy with what happened to your expenses in this category? You see what I mean? Like, was your income less than your spending, or was your spending more than your income for the quarter? So did you wind up pulling more credit cards? What were some things that happened? And then you're also going to write down your biggest accomplishment for this quarter. My biggest accomplishment for this quarter, I will say I had got my credit card just before we started the quarter going into July. So I'm going to put getting my business credit card because I got a new business credit card. I'm going to say getting... That is my biggest accomplishment. It wasn't the main thing that happened for me this quarter, but I don't really have anything too major this quarter that I'm really proud of. I think I did good, but I want you to think really nicely on what your biggest accomplishment is for this quarter. And then I also want you to think of, I didn't write this on here, but we're going to go ahead and slip this in. What's a major goal you have for next quarter? So looking at these numbers, what is your goal that you have? I had a question from one of my clients who said, how do we decide what we're going to focus on for this particular quarter with everything coming up? So I want you to focus on what your goal is for next quarter. Okay, so I want you to focus on what is your goal for the next quarter that we have coming up. This could be personal, this can be whatever it is. So with the new quarter coming up, you guys, this is the holiday season. I'll say maybe your goal for this quarter is to save $1,000. You want to save $1,000 before the end of the year. This quarter will fall into the next year. Maybe you want to pay off a credit card by the end of this year. Maybe you want to not overspend for the holiday season. I want you to think about one goal that you want to achieve in 3 months. Maybe you want your credit score to go up 30 points. And I want you to be as detailed as possible. I want you to be as detailed as possible. And I'm not going to write down what my quarter goal is. I kind of want to keep this personal for me. I do have a goal in mind that I do want to do for this quarter. I am going to keep it to myself just for my personal reasoning. And then when we're doing our next quarter review, hopefully I'll be able to share what my goal was and if I achieved it for the next quarter. So that is how we set up a quarterly audit, you guys. This is perfect for if you're jumping into budgeting and you're like, I have no idea where the hell to start. So start with doing your quarterly audit, then go through and set up your budget. I am currently on the last month of my budget planner, so I am going to be setting up my budget for October. So we're currently going into October right now. So this is my last month in this planner. So I am going to write down what my goal is that we have on here. This is the last month, so we're going to set this up for October. I didn't fill in my budget planner yet, you guys, just because I've been working on everybody else's budget, but I did want to talk about this on my while we were doing the quarterly review. Since we are setting up a new month, I wanted to go through and set up my budget for this particular quarter. So this will be my first budget of the new quarter. This will be your first budget of the new quarter. If you guys need help on how to set up your budget, I do have customized plans available, and I also have the budget planner that you can use to set everything up. Sorry, you guys, brain fart today. So once again, add up everything you've spent, and now looking at these numbers, when you're setting up your variable expenses, think about your variable expenses. When you're new to budgeting and you're trying to figure out what you're going to set up for your variables, the first thing you want to do is a quarterly audit, okay? So how much do we want to budget for groceries? We know from July, August, and September, we spent the total of $127, $89, and $100. This was per month. So when I'm setting up my grocery budget, I know I can do anywhere from $100 to $127 as my grocery budget, because this was the low end and this was the high end, right? But we would automatically start with 100. So when I'm setting up my budget for the new quarter, I'm going to go ahead and do my groceries still as 160. Doing this audit allowed me to see what I need to set my goals are. So for gas, transportation, we spent $60 in July, $52 in August, and $56 in September, okay? So that means I range about $60 a month on gas. So for gas, for this quarter, I'm going to go ahead and put my gas as $60, okay? And you see how this is beneficial to see things and see where you need to adjust your budget at. Subscriptions, our self-care, our beauty, we can go anywhere from $80 to $340. This month I probably will get my hair done, so I'm gonna do self-care. We'll do self-care as $90, or we'll do self-care as $80. So that's what I spent. I got my nails done, so this would be $80. And then for our hair, this is every so often, we're gonna go ahead and do a budget of $250 just for hair if I get it done this month. But you see how this allows you to go through. For spending and shopping, I usually average about anywhere from 116 to 128, but I'm still going to give myself about a $200 spending budget, especially with the holidays coming up. I may be using some of that money to get gifts. So this is what you're going to do. That is how you're going to do your quarterly. This is how doing a quarterly audit helps you set up your variables, because you have an average of what you spend on these transactions. So if you get to that point and you're stuck and you're like, okay, well, how much do I want to budget for? Do this audit sheet, you guys. I'm going to set up the rest of my budget today and update my expense tracker, because we already are 3 months into the year. So I want to make sure that I have that set up and I'm on track with my clients. So that is how you would set up a quarterly financial audit, you guys. And you could print this sheet out every 3 months. And let me know in the comments, how did your quarter go? What are some things that you achieved this quarter? What are some things you're upset about this quarter? Just have that transparency, you guys. It is a great place to start. Looking at this is perfect for you to see where you're at. I want you to do this if you're doing this as a family unit. I want you and your husband to sit down together, you and your wife, you or your partner, and see where you guys are at. I can't recommend this enough. I've had so many clients do the quarterly audit before that we had, and they've seen so much growth and potential between the previous time frame versus just going straight heads on in a budget. And this is a good way to check in every 3 months, so it's not like, oh my gosh, your year has went by and you just don't know where time went. Because I will not lie, this year have flew by so quick that if I wasn't doing quarterly audits, I wasn't doing these quarterly little check-ins and looking at things, I don't know how I'll be staying on track with my own personal goals. So go through and look at this and kind of see what you have set up, and think really hard on what you want your quarterly goal to be. And I want you to focus on one thing. Sometimes you guys try to focus on too many things at once. So if your goal is to be a month ahead, how much can you put aside in the 3 months to get you ahead? If your goal is to build your emergency fund, what is your goal for that emergency fund? Is it possible to save $500 in the span of this quarter? Think of things like that, you guys. Very small. I hope this video was helpful, and if you guys have any questions, please let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys on my next video. Good luck.